Annette is 68. She lives in Lyon, alone since the death of her husband. A retired headmistress, she has a busy life. Aisha is 80, perhaps older, she doesn't really know. She lives in Casablanca with her granddaughter, her son-in-law, and 4 great-grandchildren in the most abject poverty. Anna is 30. She lives in the suburbs of Liverpool with her husband. She is a hospital psychiatrist. Annette, Aisha and Anna all suffer from osteoporosis, the silent illness which in Europe causes 1 fracture every 30 seconds and costs more than £14 billion in hospital expenses every year. Yet osteoporosis is easy to diagnose and cheap to prevent, a major challenge for public health. Professor Delma, rheumatologist at the Edouard Herriot University Hospital in Lyon, has made it his personal cause. Firstly, people need to be informed about the illness. This patient has secondary osteoporosis, which began after a long treatment with cortisone.
Are you still taking the cortisone? So you're not taking it anymore?
In childhood and adolescence, everybody builds up capital in the bone bank. Bone is living tissue. Cells renew themselves continuously, and then, especially in women, over the years the process reverses. The bone disintegrates more quickly than it reconstructs itself.
The bones become porous and crumble and give under the weight of the body. We might say that in women between 20 and 40, bone density doesn't change. And then, as the menopause approaches, there's bone tissue loss, which accelerates after the menopause. Why? Because the loss of estrogen, which accompanies the menopause, brings with it a surge in the bone metabolism. Destructive processes, as compared with bone formation, are considerably increased, and this brings a deficit that will cause bone loss. And this accelerated bone loss following the menopause will lay the foundations for osteoporosis.
Osteoporosis develops silently and gives no warning signs for a long time. And then one day, a fracture. 1 woman in 3, 1 man in 8 over the age of 50 will suffer a fracture caused by osteoporosis, unless they go and get treatment. This is what Annette has decided to do. For 8 years, she has been taking part in a study on osteoporosis at the Edouard Herriot Hospital. This allows her to have tests which are still reserved for far too few women because they're not covered by Social Security. It's a tense moment before the osteodensitometry. Has she lost yet more precious centimetres?
45.8.
No, that's a bit of an exaggeration.
Right, I'll put 46. Right, I'm doing a first examination of your entire body. Don't move.
Osteodensitometry allows doctors to measure bone mineral density. Over the years, bone mass has reduced and become more fragile. The measured value, compared to these reference curves, showed that Annette has osteoporosis. She has therefore begun treatment to improve bone reconstruction.
Have you already had any fractures?
No, never.
You've still got osteoporosis, but you're on the right track. You're getting back to an average level.
Well, it's a good job you told me that, because otherwise I would have said I was in good health.
The essential thing is to get some care and follow-up.
Medical follow-up should be widely available in Europe, but also in the less developed countries like Morocco. 12 years ago, Aisha fell in the street in Casablanca and broke her femur, and then fractured the other one several months later. She had an operation in hospital and a plate was inserted, but the illness, which has never been treated, continued its course. Today, after yet more fractures, she is almost an invalid.
I can no longer do any housework. I just can't manage it. I put the carpet down, I sit down and make tea, that's all. My granddaughter looks after her children, who are a bit of a handful. But she still has the time to look after me. She washes my things.
Do you manage to dress yourself alone?
Sometimes I dress myself, but it takes me a lot of time. Usually my granddaughter has to help me.
In the coming 50 years, if nothing is done, 75% of hip fractures will occur in Africa, Asia and South America. Professor McKinsey, head of the rheumatology department at the Casablanca Hospital, is well aware of this. Her patients come to see her for joint and bone problems. This woman is 80 years old, and in the course of the examination, Professor McKinsey discovers a major deviation of the spine.
You can see that her spine has quite a large lump, affecting almost all of the lower back and most of the lumbar column.
Osteodensitometric and radiological examinations will confirm the diagnosis. This patient has osteoporosis, an illness which is exacerbated in Morocco by poor diet, infant malnutrition and cultural resistance.
Most of our women, as soon as they're menopausal, decide that they no longer need to see the gynecologist because they're no longer sexually active. They look on it as a fate and see no reason to continue with checkups or even to take hormone treatments as a preventative measure against all the troubles of the menopause.
Professor McKinsey carried out a study in the poor quarter of Casablanca where Aisha lives. 25 to 30% of women show signs of osteoporosis. Treatment is available in Morocco, but according to Nadia Ragouibi, the local pharmacist, none of these women have access to it.
The minimum wage in Morocco is the equivalent of 120 to 130 pounds. The monthly treatments would cost a quarter of this. It's unaffordable, inaccessible in a society where there's no general health cover.
Screening and treatment should be reimbursed in the least privileged countries as well as in the richer ones, because osteoporosis should no longer be unavoidable. The important thing is to build real bone capital, starting with a varied, well-balanced diet, especially in children and adolescents. Anna knows a bit about this. At 16, she became anorexic. She stopped eating and menstruating and had to be hospitalized. 2 years later, she got over her anorexia and started studying again, until the day when, at the age of 19, she collapsed in the bathroom.
I just collapsed, had excruciating pain in my back, right up my back. Nothing before that, and just collapsed in the bathroom. Made my way back to my room. We got the doctor out, and he thought I'd slipped a disc in my spine, and arranged for me to have an X-ray in 2 weeks. But I spent 2 weeks in bed, slowly getting up, and it was when I got up that my mother noticed that I was shorter than my sisters, and I'd always been the tallest in the family. So she knew that something was wrong. I'd lost height.
2 weeks later, the doctor told her that she had osteoporosis. In the frenetic race to be thin, her skeleton had been affected.
Gosh, the first year was awful. You know, it was just 19, coming to terms with losing height and changing figure, and a lot of back pain. But I suppose it's something with a lot of hard work and exercise and things that I've learnt to deal with, and probably over the last 5 years, you know, I try to let it not affect me and to live as normal life as possible now.
A healthy lifestyle. This is Annette's secret. A diet rich in calcium and vitamin D, constant medical supervision, and all kinds of sport.
You have to get out of the house, because if you stay at home, you don't feel like doing anything. It's tough sometimes on Saturday mornings, it's raining, you really don't want to go to the pool, but you have to make the effort, and then you're happy you did. In fact, you're proud of yourself.
The future will depend on getting people moving. If we manage to increase awareness of the disease among women, to mobilize them so they look after themselves, and if we also manage to increase medical knowledge, showing doctors how to detect osteoporosis, in women, for example, who suffered a small, seemingly banal fracture, if everybody applies themselves, I think we can really reduce the number of fractures and improve quality of life for these women.
Osteoporosis, an illness to which people had resigned themselves, but they were wrong. Early detection, more patient-friendly treatment, our life expectancy is getting longer. We must now make the fight against osteoporosis a public health priority.